Okay, just one last lecture in this scope planning. We've looked at the WBS, we've looked at work packages. In lecture 4A we also looked at the scope definition. That was getting the requirements and finally putting together a scope statement. The last part is integrated change control. We're just talking about planning for integrated change control, so on with the show. So establishing change control is accepting that, from day one projects change, things will change. There are some things that you can work around, some small things that don't need a formal procedure, but often if there's a change in scope, if you had decided to do a patio 4 by 6 metres using certain materials, but then somebody changes the scope, and there's an example in your handout, and they wanted a new material which costs twice as much, then that's a significant change, and that needs to be run through a formal procedure. That formal procedure has two aspects. One is why are you making the change? You have the sponsor articulate why they're making the change, and what impact does it have on the project? What impact does it have on the schedule, the costs, the people involved, any risks? So a change control system is an approved set of procedures that describes how you go about making this change, about articulating what the benefit is, analysing the cost, and who authorises the change. We talk about baseline. Baseline's at the planning stage. These are the work packages that we choose to do. This is when we choose to do them. Our baseline is made up of 3 parts. That's scope, schedule, and cost. Just talking about baseline here now for the scope. It's the approved version of the work. Okay, it can only be changed through a formal change. So if the change is substantial enough, we need to re-baseline. We need to say we're no longer building patio A, we're actually doing something slightly different. Here's what it will look like. So you need to document that this change is being made, and we talk about a formal change request. Okay, it's a proposal to change or modify the project. It's an analysis of what impact that will have on the project, and finally an authorisation that the project will be re-baselined. An example of a formal change request is given here. You notice here we have a description of what the change is, and the important part here is asking why that's needed. What's the business need? Why is it better to do the project this other way? Is it better to use this new material? Was there a reason behind it? Is a stakeholder request? Are they willing to pay for it, etc.? Then as a project manager, you've got to look at the project, the impact that this change will have on scope, any deadlines, the impact on budget, impact on quality to this part of the project or other parts of the project, what introduction of risk is a result of changing this project in this way, and how does it affect the people. If the sponsor weighs up, or whoever's going to sign this document, if the sponsor weighs up that the benefits of making this change outweighs the impacts, then they go ahead and sign it. So that's in a formalised or a formal change request form. So we're just wrapping up scope now with an overview. We talked about scope in terms of a set of processes. Those processes started with inputs from charter and your stakeholders. You develop, you go through a planning stage that develops the requirements. So we have a requirements traceability matrix, and from there we're able to build a scope statement. Scope statements include things like a description of scope, key deliverables and acceptance criteria, constraints, and assumptions. Importantly also the project boundary. We then looked at work breakdown structure, which takes the whole project and chunks it down into smaller manageable parts. We decompose, the process of creating a work breakdown structure is a decomposition. Where do you stop? You stop when you have a work package. How do you have a work package? Well, you meet some of these requirements. One is only one person is assigned to it. The other is there must be sufficient detail for the person who has been assigned responsibility to understand what is required to be done. No more than that. We then looked at integrated change control, which is a formal procedure for changing or updating the plan. The plan, or at this stage you've just heard about scope baseline, the plan is the baseline. So if we change the baseline, we need to articulate what the impact on the project is and accept that change. In the next we'll look at schedule, and we'll start talking about creating or using the software. You guys have had plenty of chance with the labs, so I'm not going to show you how to use the software in these short lectures, but just show you how that fits in. Alright, that's the end of scope.